But yasmin vikriyamanepi, a thing is undergoing a change, even then, tadeva idam, this is that, iti buddhihi na vihanyate, yatha prasivyadi, just as earth is constantly changing. So they give the definition here. Purva rupa parityage sati, nanakara pratibhasaha parinama. This is the definition they give of parinama. So purva rupa parityagepi, even in spite of giving the previous state, rupa means state here, nanakara pratibhasaha parinamaha, even then it appears in nana akara, in different forms. So every moment the form is changing. Thus a thing is constantly giving up its previous state and assuming a new state. So this is called vikara or parinama. This is called parinama or change. It's a transformation. So they say that it is not that moksha is, they say nityam can be of two kinds. Why not moksha also be of this kind? This is it. The moment you use a word, we say that moksha is nitya, moksha is permanent. This is all right. Permanence also is two kinds. Why not we say that moksha is of the second kind, that it is changingly permanent? That's all. Without analyzing the nature of moksha, they say. The moment you use the word nitya, then this question will arise. So we have to release that word nitya from some other connotations that it may have. That's all it is. You can take a look at Purnanandiya. He gives the same, first of all in last paragraph, he gives the explanation of Bhashya. Na vihanyate iti. Say, Bhashya kinchid iti tad iti shesha. Kinchid vastu asti ityartha. Because yasmin vikriyamane, when yat shabda is there, tat shabda must be added there. Na vihanyate apratihata janyate iti yavad. Meaning that this buddhi, that this is it, all is never obstructed. Apratihata janyate. Yasmin vastuni parinamamane sati tadeva vastu idamidi pratyabhijñāyo buddhi apratihata janyate. This is called pratyabhijñā, recognizing the thing as it was before. So vastuni parinamamane sati, even though a thing is undergoing a change or transformation, tadeva vastu idam iti pratyabhijñā. Pratyabhijñā means recognizing. Hey, this is the same clip that was yesterday, the same book that was yesterday, same microphone that was yesterday there. This is called pratyabhijñā, recognizing that same thing. Pratyabhijñāro buddhi apratihata janyate. This pratyabhijñā also is considered as a pramanam by Sureshwaracharya. So there were pragaswav samiti pravoda samaye yaf pratyabhijñāyate. When he wakes up in the morning, then he says, I who went to sleep is the one who woke up in the morning. And therefore it shows that I is continuous. The I that went to sleep is the I that woke up in the morning, which means that in a deep sleep also I was existent. Not that I was shunya or non-existent, that I was existent. So that pratyabhijñā with reference to I also is considered to be pramanam. Anyway, so pratyabhijñāro buddhi apratihata janyate. Buddhi means this concept or this understanding that this is the same thing. Iti apratihata janyate. It is not obstructed. Idea is that parinama or change does not obstruct the recognition. This is important. Sometimes it may obstruct the recognition, then you will not call it nityam. A thing may change so much, like a milk will undergo transformation to become curd, then you cannot recognize that this was milk. However, so that will be called vikara, a complete change happens. Here on the other hand, parinama nityam is what? That thing has changed, alright, but still you recognize it as such. As we said the other day, like the ex of my great-grandfather, it has undergone change 25 times. And still, there is somehow this buddhi on my part that this is the same ex. So, this kind of a thing which, in spite of changing, still retains in us a recognition is called parinami nityam. Tat kinchid vastu pratyabhijñā pramanakam parinami nityam syad iti purvena anvayah. That vastu can be called tat kinchid vastu. That tat shabda should go there. Tat kinchid vastu parinami nityam syad. So tadeva idamid buddhi nahanyate tat parinami nityam syad. So he gives the Anvaya. Yasmin vastune vikriyamane, meaning parinamane sati. Tade vastu idamidi pratyabhijna buddhirupa buddhihi apradyeha janave tat kinchid vastu pratyabhijna pramanakam. That second tat, tat kinchid vastu, what is it? Pratyabhijna pramanakam parinamanityam iti syaditi purvana anvayaha. Yatha prasivyadi parinamanityam. According to the people who accept Prithvi as real, they say that Prithvi means earth is parinamanityam. It is constantly changing. Now it is green, when the rain comes it becomes all green. When the heat comes it becomes all dry. And thus constantly it changes. As the seasons change, earth appears different. In fact, it may appear different every day to a very sensitive person. However, we still recognize that this is the same earth. In these changes you can see very clearly in northeastern United States, where in autumn season all the leaves are completely bare. All the trees are bereft of leaves completely. The Prithvi looks different. Spring comes, everything becomes green, different. Again fall comes and it becomes all colorful, different. So Prithvi in fact assumes different colors and different states, and still we recognize it to be the same Prithvi, same earth. So this is called parinamatyam. Earth is going constantly there, all right, but then it is constantly changing. Yatha prasivyadi parinamanityam yatha cha sattvadi gunatra vishishtam pradhanam. Also pradhanam is that which consists of sattva, rajas and tamas. In the state of pralaya there is a balance of sattva, rajas, tamas. And then in the state of activity creation, then there is a predominance, these gunas are all in an imbalance. Sometimes there is a predominance of sattva guna, like in Krita Yuga. Sometimes predominance of Rajo guna, like in Treta Yuga and Dwapara Yuga. And then predominance of Samo guna, like in Kali Yuga. And thus these gunas, their proportion keeps changing. And still we recognize them as three gunas. So gunatvam remains, even though the nature of guna and the predominance changes. So therefore it is called parinamanityam. So pradhanam, according to Sankhyas, is parinamanityam. Yathacha Sankhyanam gunaha parinamanityah. Or further, yoham balyepi tatha bhuvam soham vruddhosmi iti. The one who was there as a child, So balyepi, as I was in the childhood. Soham vruddhosmi, the same I is now old. Iti avastharupa dharma bhedevi. Even though the body has gone to different avasthas, like balyavastha, yuvavastha, etc., even then I recognize it to be the same body. Iti dharma bhedevi. Thus, what is the dharma of the body? Different avasthas. So, childhood is the dharma of the body. And the youth is the dharma of the body. Middle age is the dharma of the body. So of the body, the dharma keeps on changing. Dharma bhedepi, even though there is a constant change in dharma, or the characteristic of the body, or the state of the body, dharmi aikya vishayaka pratyabhijna balat. Still the dharmi, that pinda of the body is one alone, assuming different dharma or the different avasthas, and therefore we recognize it to be the same body, my body, or I. Dharmi aikya vishayaka pratyabhijna balat. On the strength of this pratyabhijna, the recognition that dharmi is the same. Parinamanityam tarkikabhimatam sharirādikam. So tarkikas accept sharira, etc., and charvakas also, they accept sharira as parinamanityam. So adi shabdena uchyate. So prasivyadi. So adi means this sharira, etc., also should be taken as parinamanityam. That should be a full stop there. Shabdena uchyate, it stop should be there. Okay. Now again, go back to page 150, Purnanandya, first paragraph. See, now that we have read this, it will be easy to understand what he says there. Nanu nitya vastu madhye yasmin vastuni parinamamane sati tadeva idamiti pratyabhijna pramana balat. One bar should be there. Siddham parinami nityatvameva mokshasya syat. Yasmin vastuni parinamane sati. So what kind of moksha it is, I don't know whether they have imagined a parinami nitya moksha, Like Brahmaloka, there are different levels are there and different kind of things are, lakes are there and what it is. So today you are in front of this lake and then maybe you are changing your apartments, etc. And that is how you are in Brahmaloka, all right, but Brahmaloka is changing all the time. I don't know, when they talk of parinami nitya moksha, so maybe being in heavens, and so you are in heavens all right, all the time, but then every day you must be experiencing different kinds of happiness, and that is how it is moksha, okay, meaning freedom from all anartha is all right, but still the happiness that you experience is changing, something like that you can imagine, I guess. यस्मिन् वस्तुनि परिणममाने सति तदेव इदमिति प्रत्यभिज्ञा प्रमाणबलात्. On the strength of a pramanam or means of knowledge called pratyabhijna or recognition, tadeva idam, we recognize the thing to be same. Siddham parinami nityatvam, then so this kind of a thing which is recognized to be the same on account of this pramanam called pratyabhijna, that thing is called parinami nityam or changingly permanent. Says parinami chata nityam chaiti parinami nityam, that it is changing as well as it is permanent, that is called parinami nityam. तथा च यत् परिणाम नित्यम तत् कार्यमिति व्याप्तिः, and also whatever is parinami nityam, whatever is parinami, why nityam? So anything that is parinami, anything that is changing must be a product, whether it is nitya or anitya. Yat parinami tat karyam, that which is changing, that must be a product, it must be an effect, because product is that which was not there at some point in time, which is there now and which will not be there at a certain time. So product or effect is that which is time bound, and therefore it must undergo the sixfold modification, sort of, of asti, jayate, vardate, etc., vinashyati. So things should decay and then ultimately it will perish, and therefore it must undergo change. There alone it can be called parinami, undergoing constant transformation. And therefore anything that is parinami or anything that is transforming itself must be created, must be a product. If moksha also is like that, then also it must be a product. So yat parinami nityam tat karyamiti vyaptihi yatha prithivyaadi. So Prithvi, according to them, so those people who believe that Jagat is nitya, that world, creation is real and it is nitya, means is permanent, they also observe that the world is constantly changing. And so how do you say that world is permanent when you find it changing constantly? We say that it is parinami nityam. It is changing and still permanent. Change is permanent, something like that. So, yatha prasivyadi tadvat mokshasya dharma karyatvam syat. So anything that is parinami is a karyam. So moksha also being parinami or changing, we say that is also karyam or created, and created by what? Dharma. In this case, upasana. Let us say that moksha also is, dharma is a better word, because there is a reason for using that word dharma. Let us say that moksha also is created as a result of some virtuous action, because moksha is parinami nityam. How it is parinami nityam? Because you say nityam, therefore it can be parinami nityam also. And therefore, then, iti ched, if this is what you have to say, then this is what we reply. Uchyate. Yat parinama nityam tat savayavam iti vyaptihi. Anything that is parinami or changing must necessarily be a composite entity. What is a composite entity? Made of different components. And therefore, even a lump of clay is called a composite entity in as much as it is made up of many molecules. Or a molecule will be called a composite entity because it is made up of many atoms. So anything that is made up of parts or components is called a composite entity. It is called sanghata. And therefore, also tat savayavam, these components are also called avayava. So it is savayava, meaning a composite entity. Only a composite entity can undergo change or transformation when there is a change in components. So when several components come together, when there is a change in configuration of those components, then a thing will appear in a different form. So if the house also, if you can change in some fashion, then it will appear different. Anything that is made up of components, if you change the components, it will be in a different state. So yet parinama nityam tat savayavam. Anything that is parinami or changing must be a composite entity, meaning avayava. Avayava means parts or components. So savayavam. Iti vyaptihi yatha pruthivyadi, just as pruthivi, also made up of various atoms. Also that is changing, because then therefore it is parinami. Since it is made up of components. Tathacha shrutyuktasya swabhavika asharira amrita brahmalakshanasya mokshasya nirvayavatvad. But Shruti says moksha is of what kind? Not only nitya but kutastha nitya, not parinami nitya. Swabhavika. First of all, anything that is parinami or changing must be created. Moksha is what? Swabhavikatvad. Ashariram sharireshu. Even when the bodies are there, there is that which is bodiless. Even when the changing impermanent things are there, there is that which is changeless or permanent. And therefore, it is there. Yaf pashyadi, sa pashyadi. One who sees that, sees. Other one does not see. It is there for you to see. It is there for you to see. And therefore, it is already there. Swabhavikam. It is the nature of the self. Asharira, that unembodiment, or body being bodiless, body being devoid of body, gross, subtle and causal, is the nature of Atma. Amrita, it is Amritam. Amrita means is immortal, therefore also not destructible. Amrita Brahma Lakshanasya Mokshasya. Moksha itself is Brahma. And Brahma is what? So it is Brahma Jnanam is Moksha really. If Moksha were Brahma, then of course everybody is Mukta, which everybody is. And still you are not Mukta because it is necessary to know the self is Brahman. But the idea is self is already free, because self is already Brahma. And therefore, ultimately what is Moksha? Moksha is nothing but Brahma, because Brahma means free also. Nitya Mukta hai, Atma, and therefore is ever free. Therefore, in a way you can say that Atma is Brahman and Brahman alone is Moksha, because Brahman is free. So Brahma Lakshanasya Mokshasya. Actually, Brahma Jnana must be Lakshana of Moksha. Because if I being Brahman were enough for me, it would have been fine. But it's not enough. I have to know that I am Brahman. So it is Brahma Jnanam. But what is the nature of Brahma Jnanam? Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. Therefore it is said that knower of Brahman becomes Brahma. So that becoming Brahma is called Moksha. Therefore Moksha is nothing but Brahma. This is how Moksha is said to be Brahma. So Amrita Brahma Lakshanasya Mokshasya Niravayavatvad. Brahma is what? Niravayavam. It's not a composite entity. Doesn't have parts. It's not created. Na parinami nityatvam. If moksha were different from Brahma, if some entity, we would have perhaps imagined it to be, if it were a loka, if moksha were Brahma loka or Vaikuntha or something like that, then you could imagine that is made up of parts. And every day Brahma loka appears different. Every day Vaikuntha would appear different depending upon your mood, etc. Then perhaps it could be parinami nityam. But it is not a loka, it's not a place, it is not a state. It is the nature of the self, and therefore it is not a state which is dependent upon a certain condition. Even Brahma Loka also depends upon a certain condition, that you earn certain punya, etc., as a upasana, and therefore you are there. But moksha is not like that. So, na parinami nityatvam kindu kutastha nityatvam eva. Moksha is kutastha nitya, meaning it is changelessly permanent. It is changeless and permanent. Kincha parinami nityatvam kalpitam. And this business that you call it parinami and nitya is according to us contradictory. That which is undergoing change or transformation, it cannot be imperishable. It has to be perishable. That which is changing has ultimately to decay, In that sense, you cannot call it nityam. It has to, when it is changing, it cannot be nityam or otherwise. In that sense, therefore, if there is a changing and still nityam, that means that change is only a kalpana. If you say that it is changing and still permanent, that shows that change is merely an appearance of that permanent thing. That permanent appears to be changing, but not really changing. Otherwise, it cannot be permanent. So when Jagat also appears to be permanent to these people, we say you are right. But in what manner? In the manner that even for the changing jagat or the creation, there is a changeless substratum. That changeless substratum alone, that is Brahman, alone appears as this changing jagat. So change is what? Change is not real. Change is something that is imagined. Nityam, it is kalpitam. So parinama real is a kalpana. It is not that the real thing is undergoing a transformation. It is a real thing that appears to be undergoing transformation. This is, so it's not that something that is real Brahman which is there is actually undergoing change or transformation. Brahman appears to be undergoing transformation, so that parinama itself is what? Kalpana. Is not real. If Prithvi really changed from one state to other, if Prithvi were real in itself, then it's fine. It is Brahman which appeared as Prithvi in this state, alone appears as Prithvi in another state. And therefore, Brahman alone appears to be a changing entity, so change is what? Kalpana, meaning it is projected and not real. So, kincha parinami nityatvam kalpitam. To call it parinami and still nitya is nitya which appears to be parinami, and therefore parinama itself is a kalpana. Because when there is advitiyatvam, when there is no second thing, Brahma is the only thing. And Brahma is the only thing which is ever changeless. Then how do I account for the change? Change is nothing but a kalpana, is a projection, is an adhyaropa, is not a real thing. So this kind of an entity, that is a parinama nitya, and itself is not there. There is only nitya entity is there, Brahman, but no parinama nitya. Parinama being a change is an appearance. So kalpana. Parinama nityatvam kalpitam. Kutastha nityatvam tu shrutehe svabhavikatvat. So shrutehe, this Shruti reveals that there is a kutastha nitya Brahma which is changelessly permanent. Svabhavikatvat na upasana karmakaryatvam iti etat artham. Therefore, that which is kutastham and nityam must be already there. Means it doesn't have to be created, nor can it be created. If upasana or karma is performed in order to transform a thing, or create a thing, or whatever, then of course upasana or karma would have been applicable there. But then, since Brahma is kutastha nityam, moksha also therefore is kutastha nitya, and therefore it cannot be created, and therefore it cannot be a product of karya or dharma or upasana. Tatah na parinami nityatvam mokshasya tasmat na upasana karma karyatvam mokshasya. Moksha cannot be upasana karma karya. Upasana rupa karma. Upasana also is mental activity, and moksha cannot be considered to be a product of upasana. It edatham sfuti kartum. So whenever this is said, we feel that upasana is being dismissed. Every day this thing arises. That every day Swami is saying upasana is useless, because upasana does not generate moksha. We don't say upasana is useless at all. We are not saying that. Only in a particular context we are discussing the role of karma and upasana. Understand? That can moksha or freedom be a result of upasana? We say no. That does not mean upasana has no role to play. It has a very important role to play. Karma also has a very important role to play. And which role? Antakarana Shuddhi, which is extremely important and absolutely necessary. That purification of heart has to happen. Without that, it is only a kalbhranti that somebody is mukta. It's not possible. Na viruto duscharitat, na shanto na samahitah, na shantamanaso vapi prajnane naiva mapnuyat. Very clearly said, duscharitra is not gone, don't expect mukti. Saying, I'm attending classes and listening Swamiji, so I will become mukta and I will do other things. These are all nonsensical things, This is a complete package, and therefore everything has to go together. And therefore this karma and upasana's role have already been discussed in Purva-mīmāmsa, therefore they are not discussed here, understand? So these Brahma Sutras are addressing a particular kind of a student. That's the reason why this is the nature of treatment. Had we been discussing Purva-mīmāmsa, then there would be only glorification of karma and upasana, because they have that glorious role to play. The idea is that a time comes when they have done their job. Karma and upasana have done their job. So they have fulfilled themselves. Then, even when upasana has fulfilled itself, there is not the total fulfillment of life. That is all the Vedanta is saying. That there is a fulfillment in karma. That when you perform a good action, there is a sense of fulfillment. And when you do the meditation, upasana, there is a great fulfillment. But then they are saying that there is a greater fulfillment also. That's all. Don't stop there. They don't say that don't perform karma and don't perform upasana. It's not said that. It is said that don't stop that. You will find in your own experience that whenever you do something good, that there is satisfaction or fulfillment generated. No one will deny that. Or that when you are meditating or worshipping God, there is a great fulfillment generated. There is no denial at all. And that is necessary to experience and necessary also to cultivate. Kuch hota hi nahi hai. Swamiji, I go to temple, nothing happens to me. That means that we have to develop that sensitivity. So karma and upasana enable us to develop a great sensitivity. No doubt about that. All that Vedanta is saying is that there is a greater fulfillment than that, which you should not overlook. The Purva Mimamsaka and Uttar and Vedantins, all of them accept karma and upasana for what they are, except that the Karma Kandis or Purva Mimamsakas believe that that is the ultimate fulfillment in your life, and Vedanta says, no, there is a greater fulfillment also. That's all. That knowledge is most fulfilling. But when can knowledge take place? Only when there is a preparation as a result of karma and upasana. Otherwise knowledge cannot take place. Therefore, if knowledge could take place without that, it was not necessary to place Upanishad after Karma Kanda. So Upanishads or Jnana Kanda is placed after Karma Kanda, after Brahmana and Aranyaka. So Brahmana is essentially a ritualistic portion, and Aranyaka is essentially the meditation portion, and after that comes the Upanishad. That shows that one has gone through those stages of maturity, and then this is the ultimate maturity. And it is true. It is not that you have to postpone study of the Upanishad to a time when I will become Shuddha, because even this knowledge also enables you to bring purification. This knowledge is required anyway. Even when you are performing karma and upasana, this knowledge is still required. Why is it required? Because it will enable you to purify karma and upasana. If I believe that moksha is something to be attained, if I believe that moksha is something to be created as a karma phala, then that karma phala asakti or a sense of expectation does not go from me when I perform karma. Or if I feel that moksha is something to be generated as a result of upasana, then when I am doing meditation also, there is always an expectation of something to happen. So it is said, nothing has to happen, don't worry. Therefore, when you meditate or worship God, don't worship God for the sake of happening something. Don't worship God for the sake of some karma phala. That's all. Then your worship also gets really sanctified. So understanding of this sanctifies the very karma. Otherwise, how can we ever give up the karma phala sakti? When I perform the action, how can I ever give up the attachment for karma phala or expectation of a certain personal benefit? How can I give up? Only when there is an overall understanding of the goal or sadhya, that it is the attainment of what is already attained. The understanding of sadhya or the goal is extremely necessary in order also to choose and properly perform the sadhana. It's not enough that you are traveling. It is necessary that you are traveling on the right path. And how do you know that the path is right? Only when you know where the destination is. So the rightness of the path is determined by the destination, and not because the path looks beautiful and stuff like that, or because you are traveling, or because you have a beautiful vehicle. So sadhya must always be very clear. And then alone the sadhana becomes clear, otherwise it cannot. Therefore, even when I am doing karma and upasana, this knowledge still becomes absolutely essential, because it gives me clarity that what I am seeking in my life is what I already am. What separates me from my goal is not some time or a place or a condition. That not that I have to travel some distance in time, or I have to go to a different place, or I have to become something in order to become free. That I have to discover that I am free. And therefore, this karma and upasana are means for enabling me to discover what I am and not creating something within me. Otherwise, the fascination of becoming something, becoming powerful, becoming strong, having some siddhis will not go. When we associate moksha or freedom with siddhis, because what is upasana result? That kind of a thing. And when we associate moksha always with that, that fascination, if it doesn't go, the rasa for the siddhis does not go. That rasa will play its role even when I am performing karma or even when I am doing upasana. You cannot escape that. Your mind will cheat you. If you associate moksha with anything, with a kind of personality, that this is moksha, means you will want to become that naturally. Or if you associate moksha with a certain place, you will want to go there. So, moment there is any imagination about moksha, your mind will want to have it. Your mind will always meditate on what it is imagining. So he says, don't imagine at all. Moksha is already an established fact, and therefore make your mind resolve. And how can the mind be resolved when it knows that there is nothing to be achieved? So when I perform the karma, I don't have to achieve anything as a result of karma. Then what's the role of karma? Karma then is to give something, not to acquire, not to achieve something. I have nothing to achieve as a result of worship. Then why should I worship? So that I become purified. That's all. Then really the karma and upasana will gain their proper perspective. Otherwise, they will also create a result which you may not want. That's why we say it will perpetuate. If karma or upasana are performed with a result, with a desire for a result, it will perpetuate your limited existence. And therefore, this understanding of nityatvam of the moksha or praptasya praptihi, that alone will enable us to become free from fascination for karma phala, nothing else. Who can otherwise give up karma phala? Even if Lord Krishna says, still I cannot give up, because as long as inadequacy is given reality, then don't give reality to your sense of inadequacy also. That's what it means. If moksha is not to be attained, then your sense right now that I am inadequate, don't give reality to that. Meaning don't perform karma and upasana giving reality to the inadequacy. Don't say that don't perform karma and upasana. It only said that do not give reality to your sense of inadequacy. Don't call yourself a beggar and don't perform karma of begging. If you want to perform karma of giving. If I think I am a beggar, I have to become rich, I can never give. Even if I am a millionaire, if I think that I am a beggar, I have to become a trillionaire, I can never give. If I know that I am rich, then alone I can give. So this enables one to feel that richness. As we understand this, in which case, in life, there is not an expectation from the world or from anybody. There is always a desire or a tendency to be able to share. This alone can really enable us, this understanding will enable us to cultivate values of amanitvam, adambhitvam, otherwise we cannot. An inadequate person always seeks security from manitvam and dambhitvam alone. And as long as inadequacy is given reality, I can never give up manitvam, because that is where I get my security. And so when Vedanta is all the time emphasizing the praptasya prapti, it is not really to deny anything or not really to dismiss anything, it is to place everything in its proper perspective and enabling us to do everything properly. So you must know, that the whole purpose should not go out of sight. It is always true that when we discuss a given point, we have to always dwell upon that at the exclusion of others. Otherwise you can never do justice to that. So while dwelling upon moksha, we cannot dwell upon karma and upasana simultaneously, because that will be a distraction of the mind. But just because we do not dwell upon karma in the Brahma Vidya Prakaranam, that does not mean that karma has been dismissed or upasana is dismissed. It's not so. After all, when you go to a doctor when you are suffering from a disease, doctor will give a long lecture about tuberculosis. That doesn't mean that's the only disease in the world, but that's relevant to you at this time. Therefore, the doctor is talking about it. No, but I have some backache also, and see, this doctor never pays attention to that. Right now, he has to pay attention to one thing, so that you will get rid of that. And so, what is the prastuta matter? What is the matter under discussion? What is moksha? That is being the matter of discussion. That alone will be discussed here. And in order to clearly understand it, it is necessary to take up for analysis other standpoints about moksha and see if there is a limitation or a defect or a blame, a problem in that thinking, to analyze that so that our own understanding of moksha becomes clear. So our own understanding of what we are seeking in life becomes clear. And then whatever we do will fall in its own place. That's all. So there is no insult to anything. The shoes, just because you take them out of this hall, does not mean that you insulted shoes. Look at this. Swami says, don't bring shoes in the classroom. These shoes they have helped me to walk 10 miles and now I should discard them. I must always keep them with me. No. They have done their purpose. So keep them there. And now you enter. And wash your feet preferably before you enter the temple. Does it mean that shoes are all condemned? No. They have done their purpose. And when they have done their purpose, that is their place. So whatever be the place of everything, that we should know. Otherwise there will not be viveka in our life. Otherwise you will carry all kinds of shoes also in the temple because they are my shoes and they are good shoes. Swamiji, look, why do you ask me to keep them? They are so beautiful. Just because they are beautiful doesn't mean that they have place here. And so that just because they don't come to the temple doesn't mean they are not beautiful also. It's not there is a discrimination or something like that. It is that everything has a place in life. And that alone, they say in Sanskrit, everything looks beautiful where it is. Teeth are beautiful here only. If you place them elsewhere, it won't look beautiful. And also nails are beautiful here, not elsewhere. Everything is beautiful where it is and where it should be. And therefore, it is necessary for us to know the place of everything in its proper perspective. So presently and for many days to come, discussion will be only pertaining to moksha. And that it is not created. That it is the nature of the self. And then when it is not to be created, therefore karma cannot bring about moksha. Karma can bring about a lot of things, but not moksha. So that will always remain the burden of this discussion. And every day we worry that so karma is dismissed, upasana is dismissed, now I cannot do karma. Swami, now all my faith is gone after listening to Vedanta. Faith must only be strengthened. Then you have not listened to Vedanta properly. And not the Vedanta that we are teaching. If somebody from this class goes with an understanding, this Swami is dismissing karma and upasana, they have not understood anything, or they don't listen. In fact, we all the time bring about the place of karma and upasana in its proper perspective every time whenever the occasion arises. So always be listening and understand the purport of what all we are discussing here. Okay, so किंच परिणाम नित्यत्वं कल्पितम् कूटस्थ नित्यत्वं तु श्रुतेः स्वाभाविकत्वात् न आकाशवत् नाशक भावाच्च. There is no nashaka. There is no dvitiya. When there is a second thing, that nasha or destruction is possible. In order for something to die, in order for something to be destroyed, there must be a destroyer element. So there must be a force which can eliminate or destroy Atma. Who can destroy Atma? If there were a second thing, there is no second thing to destroy it. And therefore even to be able to measure a thing is called its destruction in a technical language. When you measure a certain form by the eyes, then you have destroyed it because you have confined it to that. But anyway, that's why it's aprameya, moksha. Nashak abhavacha paramarthikam iti abhyupagamyate. And therefore, moksha is paramarthika iti abhyupagamyate. Tataha so na parinami nityatvam. So kutastha nityatvam paramarthikam. That is kutastha nityatvam. That is kutastha nitya is absolute. Parinami nitya is kalpitam. Not paramarthikam is vyavaharikam or kalpitam. That kutastha nityam is what? Paramarthikam. Abhyupagamyate tataha na parinami nityatvam mokshasya. And therefore moksha cannot be parinami nitya. You won't like it also. Suppose moksha were parinami nitya, you will not be satisfied. No one is going to be satisfied with anything less than limitless. Parinami nityam is changing. Therefore it is limited. And therefore nobody will be satisfied with it. Tasmat na upasana karma karyatvam mokshasya. Therefore moksha cannot be a karma karya. Cannot be in fact a product of karma of the nature of upasana. Ityedartham sputikartam bhashyam avatarayati. To clarify or bring out this meaning, Ratna Prabhakara introduces the bhashya, explains the bhashya, nityatvebi iti. So nityatvebi parinamidaya dharmakaryatvam mokshasya, that we already discussed. Dveda vibhajit tatra kinchit. Tatra means nitya vastu madhya ityartha. When we talk about nitya vastu, Parinami chata nityam chedi parinami nityam. Ratnaprabha says parinami nityam is that which parinami as well as nityam. Atma tu kutastha nitya iti na karma sadhya hai. However, Atma is kutastha nitya, changeless and permanent. Therefore, na karma sadhyam. Idantu iti. So Vashyakara said on page 151, Idantu paramarthikam. Idam means what? This kutastha nityam is paramarthikam and kutastham nityam. Or idam means Brahma, or idam means Kaivalyam. So, idantu paramarthikam kutastham nityam. So this is kutastha nityam and not parinami nityam. Changelessly permanent, not changingly permanent, and paramarthikam. Meaning it is not kalpitam, it is absolute. It is existing on its own. Parinami nityam is kalpitam. Vyomavat sarvavyapi. So, Vyomavat says here, the reason for all these different visheshanas are explained by Ratnaprabha on the page 151. Kutasthatva siddhyartham parispanda abhavamaha vyomavatati. Or go back to the page 150, the last line of Ratnaprabha. Parinaminaha nityatvam pratyabhijñā kalpitam mithya. We already discussed this. That which is undergoing change, to call it nitya also, because that change itself, if there is nitya, then nitya alone is real, and parinama or change is a kalpana. Therefore, to say that something is changingly permanent, that whole concept is only kalpana. Kutasthasya tu nashaka abhavat. Kutastha doesn't have a destroyer, because it is advitiyam. Nityatvam paramarthikam. And therefore, the nityatvam, the permanence, that a kutastha or a changeless thing that enjoys is paramarthikam, is absolute. Meaning that changelessness does not depend upon anything, or that permanence does not depend upon anything. Kutasthatva siddhyartham. In order to show that Atma or Moksha or Brahma is kutastha, parispanda abhavaha. Parispanda means kriya here. Spanda means chalanam, a change. There cannot be any kriya or any change or modification or movement in Atma or Brahman. Parispanda abhavamaha. Spanda usually is a modification in time. Chalanam is a modification in place. You go from one place to another, it's called chalanam. You remain in the same place. Spanda is the movement in time. Time is changing, place does not change. So parispanda bhavam, that in moksha or atma, there is no spanda here. That means there is no any kind of an activity. Itya abhavaha vyomavat. So vyomavat sarvavyapi. Vyoma means space. It's sarvavyapi, all pervasive. Therefore space cannot move. Space cannot move from one place to other place because it is in all the places also. And therefore there cannot be movement in space because that alone is called all pervasive. Atma is all pervasive, therefore there cannot be movement. All pervasive even in terms of time. Space may not be called all pervasive in terms of time or states, as we said, because it does not obtain in deep sleep. But Atma is all pervasive not only in terms of space. It pervades in every time and pervades every avastha or a state also. Therefore, in every state Atma obtains, in every time Atma obtains, and at every place Atma obtains. So, all the Vyomavat, it said like space, but just to give us an idea of the pervasiveness, the illustration of space is given. Space is not pervasive in an absolute sense, whereas Atma is pervasive in an absolute sense, wherever it is good, bad, dharma, today, tomorrow, right, wrong, anywhere, Atma ever remains the same, shining, changeless, permanent. Sarva vikriya rahitam, parinama bhavamaha, sarva vikriya rahitam. So, that parinama means, again, a transformation. That calls for vikriya or a change. So, where there is a change, then a thing can transform from one state to another. So, sarva vikriya rahitam. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित, so forth. Then phala anapekshittvat na phalarthapi kriya iti. Not only that, there is no scope for kriya, because in kriya there is always phalarthitvam. Whenever you perform an action, there is always the desire for phala. So Phala means the result, desire for a result. When can there be desire? When again there is incompleteness. So here, however, nitya truptam. So this kutastham or this kaivalyam, whatever is what? Nitya truptam is ever content. Nitya truptam. Nityam and truptam. Or nitya ever content. When I am content, at that time there cannot be a desire. At the moment when I feel completely content, there can be no movement in me also, really. Nothing can be there. To the extent of contentness. So samadhi would be a state of complete contentness. So if you want to practice that contentedness also must be there in the mind. And therefore, that santosha must also is one of the values. No movement at all. The river, as we said, always runs because it is incomplete. Motion is motionless. Ocean is motionless because totally content, full and complete. Nitya truptam. So Atma is nitya trupta. And therefore, no need for any movement, no need for any action at all. Yes, Atmaratihi. Atma trupta. Atmani eva santushta. That being the case, no need, rati, trupti and santosha, need for this. Always take the mind away from the self. I no need to revel on something that I love. But when I love the self, no need to revel on something other than myself. Santosha is there when I get something that I like. Since I like myself, I need not acquire something else to have santosha. Trupti is there when I enjoy something that I love. Since I love myself and I enjoy myself, no need for trupti. And that's how Atmaratihi, Atmatruptaha, Atmaneva Santushtaha. So it is Nitya Truptam. There is no Tasya Karyam na Vidyate. There can be no Kriya. Because there is no need. The purpose of Kriya is to do this. And so when that need is not there, there is no Kriya or no motivation to perform action. So also it is Phala Anarapekshitva. Since there is no Apeksha of the Phala, we are already Trupta. Therefore, no phalartha bhi kriya. No kriya which is meant for phala can be there. So nitya truptamidi. Truptihi anapekshatvam. When do you call yourself truptoham? Means what? I don't need another laddu to be trupta. So when you are serving them, laddu etc. or whatever, Maharaj ji ek jyada le lijiye. Bas paryapta, purna ho gaye, paripurna ho gaye. Means what? Trupta ho gaye. So when I experience trupti, means what? I do not require that extra laddu. Meaning, my trupti does not depend upon anything else. I am trupta by myself. Now, of course, with all this laddu inside, no doubt. But then, now that the laddus have become I, for trupti, at this moment, I do not depend upon anything. Next moment, it may become a trupta for something else. Let us run away from it. Let us go, but okay. So somehow Kriya comes right away. They don't even stop there for a minute. Moment food is over, they just get up like spring. Sit there for 2 minutes, springing. But for that moment you feel trupta, then you are independent. Meaning, you do not depend upon anything other than yourself for being happy. Therefore it says truptihi anapekshatvam. There is no apeksha there. Vishokam sukham va, or trupti means sukham. Sukha is devoid of any shoka. Devoid of any kind of apprehension, devoid of any kind of incompleteness, devoid of any kind of mishranam of dukkha. So, vishokam sukham. That sukha dukkha both were called shoka because sukha also is related to dukkha. No, that trupti which is not related to dukkha also. So what is it? Yasmin sthito dukkhena gurunavi vichalyate. Where guruna pi dukkhena na vichalyate. When dukkha comes and great and pain comes, then also na vichalyate. Because vishokam, that sukha is that which is not opposed to dukkha. That is how moksha is described. So nitya truptam niravayavam niravayavatvat na kriya. Kriya always calls for avayava. Avayava means parts, compositions. Then alone Kriya is possible. I have hands and legs, then alone I can move. Or any movement is there when some Avayava must be there. Avayava means parts or components. Even though movement may not be in terms of place, milk, for example, can move it can get transformed as curd, because milk also has different components in there. When those components change in their configuration, then there is a curd, Otherwise it cannot change. If milk were a homogeneous dravya or substance, it cannot change. It is all made up of different components. And therefore, you change about the configuration of that's what all is nothing but what the chemistry, etc. is what. It's not that they create anything new, they change the configuration. That organic compound has a certain structure. By some manipulation they change the structure. So the thing is different. It's not that the carbon has been destroyed or gone, or the basic carbon hydrogen components remain the same. In terms of the fundamental constituents, they have to remain the same. But what has changed is what? The configuration. That is our cleverness. And that's how we bring about different things and different effects. Everything is wonderful. But still, when is change possible? Only when a thing is made up of different components, different ingredients, different parts. Then movement in time, so movement in space is chalanam. Movement in time is vikriya. So change or transformation, modification is also movement in time. Milk get transformed at curd. That is movement in time, not movement in space. Milk has remained where it is, but now has changed in time. Leave it for a period of time, it will get transformed into curd. That is also called kriya, but that is movement in time. So movement in time or movement in space. Movement in space requires limbs, and movement in time requires ingredients or components. Both are called avayava. And so this avayava, this kriya of any kind is possible when there is avayava. Niravayavatva, Atma is not a component, not made of atoms and stuff like that. You can manipulate with it. It doesn't have hands and legs that it can move from one place to other. And the nirvayavatvat na kriya. So kriya always calls for avayava. Avayava can mean limbs, or it can also mean components. And then alone, you give one state, assume another state. Give one place, assume another place. There is sanyoga here and then viyoga. So viyoga and sanyoga. So when you walk, there is association in one spot, then disassociation, association another spot. That kind of movement, that kind of thing is called chalanam. It cannot be because it doesn't have limbs, it doesn't have components, it is in all places, it is in all times, and therefore no kriya is possible in Atma. All that is, you see, these people are looking at words and the Vedantins are looking at things. This is all that difference is. All the time Vedantin is looking at Brahman or Atma. And then talking about moksha and the role of karma and upasana and knowledge. Those fellows are looking at words and trying to interpret the words and coming out with the karma or upasana as the ultimate purport. This is the main difference. So you'll find that fellow all the time talking about Shastra, that Vidhi Vakya is there, this Vakya is there, therefore it must be so. We say no, the thing is like that, therefore Vidhi Vakya must be understood in this way. It is the nature of thing which is important, the knowledge always must be true to the thing. Even Vedanta, Veda Vakya also cannot change the nature of a thing. So, it is Jnapakam Natu Karakam. A word cannot change the nature, it can reveal the thing, it cannot change the thing. If word could bring about change, no action is required at all. And so looking at the thing, we say that karma cannot have scope as far as moksha is concerned. Tasya bhanarthamapi na kriya. But suppose for knowing Atma, some kriya is required. Swami, moksha is a kriya, all right. Because the jnana vritti is required. See, you say that Atma is nitya mukta, is ever free. And still you are not free, isn't it? Yes. How come? Because I do not know that. That means knowledge is required. What is knowledge? Knowledge is a vritti. Knowledge is a recognition in the mind, isn't it? So it is a state of mind. Said yes. That means that even moksha also calls for a state of mind. When you know the Atma, it is an event. It is an event. Because I did not know Atma so far and now I know it, so it is an event. So it is action also. Vritti is involved there. Yes. So action is involved there. But is moksha involved action? No. Because it is not that vritti. Once you recognize yourself, and you are sufficiently sure of that, sometimes you recognize, but you are not sure of it. You need to see it again, third time, fourth time, this way, that way. Then you are sure. Sometimes what happens, you see a thing all right and you feel that it is this. What is this flower, You may have your own doubt. So this is champa. Then you don't know. Then you perhaps may take it and smell it also and do other tests just to verify. In that case, to firm up your understanding may call for some other things. Like you understood and still you require some doubts are there and some errors are there and therefore in order to firm up your knowledge, mananam, nididhyasanam, all of that is required. But once that knowledge has become spontaneous, then no effort is required, no vritti is required. So when you are asleep, fast asleep, and you wake up in the morning, then momentarily the vritti is there in your mind. I am awake. I am no more sleeping. I was dreaming. Suppose there is a nightmare and you just wake up like that. And then it takes really some time for you to be sure that I am awake. I am not sleeping, so that is not real. It may take a while for you to be assured that you are awake. Even though you find yourself awake and you recognize yourself as awake, still to assure yourself that you are awake and that all was all wrong, all false. That impact of the dream and the nightmare is so much in you that you may need to do something. Maybe drink a glass of water or take a walk and come back to make sure that you are fully awake. To own up that wakefulness may require a certain time and certain activity. But once you owned up that wakefulness, do you have to keep on saying, I am awake, I am awake, I am awake? Is it necessary? No, because wakefulness is my nature. Therefore I abide in that nature. No effort is required to abide in my own nature. Similarly also, even when the knowledge takes place and I am free, it's hard to believe, how can I be? So all sorts of doubts come. How can I be free? Because then again those other experiences come back. Like writing in water. Or like that moss you remove and again it comes back. And therefore, to get assured that I am free, some reasoning is required. And again to remember, I may again forget because of the impact of the past. And so, nididhyasanam is required. But once the knowledge has become spontaneous, what effort is required? You don't require any vritti, you don't require any effort to know yourself. Even as today also, no effort is required to know who I am because I know it effortlessly. Atma is self-effulgent. Except that self-effulgent Atma today is understood in a distorted manner. It is a distortion that is to be required, that's all that is to be done. Distortion is to be eliminated, and not that Atma is to be eliminated. So, tasya bhanartham api na kriya. Don't think that otherwise upasana, something will be required. To know Atma, if an effort is required, then the karma will be required. Atma is self-effulgent, meaning you are free without an effort, as it is. And when that is known, and when you owned up that knowledge, when other things don't threaten that knowledge, the past experiences, etc., don't still threaten or don't disturb you, then you are quite assured and quite abiding, then Atma being self-shining, no action is required. And therefore, in order to remain mukta, no kriya is required. Having become mukta, what should I do to remain mukta? Nothing. Therefore, tasya bhanartham api, even for knowing the Atma or Brahman, na kriya swayam jyotishvat. So Bhashyakara said, swayam jyotish svabhavam. Brahma is swayam jyotish svabhavam. No kriya or effort is required even to know. Ataha kutasthatvat na karma sadhya moksha iti uktam. And so what is said in all this discussion is kutasthatvat. Since Brahma is kutastham, Atma is kutastha, moksha also is kutastha. Therefore, na karma sadhya moksha. So moksha is not a product of karma iti uktam. This has been said. व्याख्याने पंचभिः विशेषणैः कूटस्थत्वं साधयति इति अभिप्रेत्य भाष्यम अवतारयति कूटस्थत्व etc. We said that these 5 visheshana used for moksha were for proving its kutasthatvam. Parinama is what? Shad bhava parinama Abhava means what? Shad bhava vikara rahityam. That's asti jayat, etc. Rahityam. Abhipretya prakrutatvat parinama abhava paratvena bhashyam yojayati iti bhavaha. So since the prakruta means that the subject matter and the discussion is kutastatvam, meaning freedom from parinama or change, therefore parinama sarva vikriya rahitvam is interpreted as shad bhava vikaratvam, so is parinama rahityam. Then niravayatvadeva ukta gamanadi kriyapi nasti iti bhavaha. That we explained. Since the Atma is partless or not a composite entity, therefore there cannot be kriya of going from one place to other, from one time to other, from one state to other. And therefore gamanadi kriyapi nasti iti bhavaha. And na karma sadhya moksha means na upasana rupa karma sadhya moksha hai. You do not require karma of the nature of upasana for creating moksha. Then says further Ratnaprabha karma tatkarya asangitvacha tatha. Karma tatkarya asangitvat. Look, moksha or Brahman is unconnected or unrelated to karma, as well as tatkarya means karma phala. And moksha is unconnected to karma phala. Moksha cannot be connected with karma or karma phala. And therefore also moksha cannot be a product of karma phala. If moksha can be related in some way as karma phala, then it can be a karma phala, but then moksha is not connected to dharma or dharma karya. So tatha iti aha yatra iti. Says Bhashya, yatra dharma dharmau sahakaryena kalatrayancha na upavartete tadetada ashariratvam mokshakhyam. Yatra and tat, they go together again. Yatra dharma dharmau karyena saha kalatrayancha na upavartete. Says here Purnanandiya in the first line yatra dharma dharmau iti. Then there should be a dash actually. Yasmin dharma dharmau na upavartete kalatrayamcha na upavartate tat ashariratvam iti anvayah. Yatra means yasmin, where dharma dharmau na upavartate. So dharma dharmau do not remain there, do not exist there, or they have no application there. Kalatrayam cha nupavartate, where the 3 periods of time also are not there, not present. Tat ashariratvam. So ashariratvam is that which has no connection with the 3 periods of time, nor does it have any connection with dharma and adharma. Idea is ashariratvam or unembodiedness is not created as a result of dharma dharma or are not in any way a function of time. They are not functions of dharma dharma or functions of time. When something is a function, then you change the variable, that thing also changes. Y is the function of x. X changes, y has to change, But then moksha is not a function of dharma dharma, nor moksha is a function of time. Otherwise, as time changes, moksha will change. Dharma dharma change, moksha will change. Moksha is not a function of anything. That's what he said, Dharma dharma sahakaryena. Karyena means karma phala. Dharma dharma phala. So he is not a function of phala also. Yasmin, then that's how you to read. Yasmin dharma dharma na upavartate, the dual. Yasmin kalatrayam cha na upavartate, singular. That is how you have to read that. That's what Ratnaprabha says. So karma tatkarya asangitvad is said by yatra dharma dharma na upavartate, and kala anavacchinnatvad cha is said kalatrayam cha na upavartate. It is yogyataya sambandhaniyam. So that verb must be modified. Bhashyakara does not do that, and this prayoga is allowed. And therefore, you have to understand that the upavartate goes with dharma dharma, The same idea is also to be connected with Kalatrayam. Okay. So tatha aha iti karma iti dharmadharmakyam karma. Karma tat karya asangitvat. Tatha iti aha says upasana tajjanya apurva sadhyatva mokshasya nasti iti aha, that moksha is not something to be accomplished as it is apurva that is created by upasana. So the way they imagine is upasana creates an apurva. Some kind of an unseen, incomprehensible effect is created by upasana, and that creates moksha, a state of moksha, this freedom. So actually according to them, Atma is bound and becomes free. If by upasana or meditation moksha is created, means Atma is made free. So according to them, Atma is bound, but Atma can become free. So they do accept, these people who are the Purupakshis here, this is the Vrittikara, accepts that Atma can become free by doing something. Not merely by knowing Atma, but by doing something, then you will know Atma as free. So right now Atma is bound, and do some upasana and Atma becomes free. So bondage also is true at this time, and freedom also will become true at that time. So duality also is true at that time in ignorance, and non-duality is true in the state of knowledge. So duality and non-duality, both of them are true depending upon different states. Vedantins will say no, duality is not true even in ignorance. It is not that you become non-dual, that you are non-dual and that you do not know. Even when the 10th man does not know that he is 10th man, he is still 10th man. Even when you do not know that the mala is in your neck, it is still there. And so when you find out it is not that the mala which was not there has been acquired, or when he knows that it is 10th man, not that a non-existent 10th man has been created, or a 9th man has become 10th man. Who was 10th alone is known as 10th. But Purvapaksha here, whenever upasana is presented here as a means for moksha, it means that moksha is created, meaning Atma becomes mukta. Atma at the moment who is separate from Brahma becomes one with Brahman by upasana. This is the burden of that statement. In that case, it is nice that upasana vakyas also are primary vakyas, and the vakyas dealing with the non-duality also are primary vakyas. So sentimentally speaking, more vakyas gain pramanyam than what Vedantins will accept. According to Vedantins, only Tattvamasi or all those vakyas revealing non-duality alone are pramanam. Rest of the vakyas are all avantara vakyas. They say no, those vakyas are also right and this vakya also is right. In ignorance, or as long as you have not done upasana, not ignorant, upasana, they are right. When you perform upasana, this is right. So more is right there, and therefore this is how Vishishta Advaita is. Vishishta Advaita also gives a tremendous importance to upasana. There also, the separation also is right in a way, and then oneness also is right. I am separate in as much as I am part and not the whole, but I am one in as much as I am part and not away. And so, wherever any kind of duality comes, the upasana or karma will definitely have its role as ultimate means. So we'll see that tomorrow, and that's how the reason why is promoting upasana is because this is how he interprets the scriptures. That those vakyas of vidhi are also right, and vakyas revealing non-duality are also right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ अथ तु समन्वयात् 151 इदन्तु पारमार्थिकं कूटस्थं नित्यं व्योमवत् सर्वव्यापी सर्वविक्रियारहितं नित्यतृप्तं निरवयवं स्वयं ज्योतिस्वभावं यत्र धर्माधर्मौ सहकार्येण कालत्रयञ्च नोपावर्तेते तदेतत् अशरीरत्वं मोक्षाख्यम्। इदन्तु पारमार्थिकं कूटस्थं नित्यं, that which is parinami nityam, which is so called changing and still permanent, is in fact, as we said, a kalpana. That which is permanent and still changing is a kalpana. What is changing cannot be permanent. Depends upon how you define permanence. We define permanence as that which is permanent at all the times, at all the places, under all conditions, at all states. So Prithvi and Gunas and all of these, which may be called relatively permanent, in the realm of time they may be called permanent in as much as they do not get destroyed. Even then they become just unmanifest, don't get destroyed. But still they are not permanent in as much as they do not have an entrance. When it comes to Chaitanyam or Brahma, they are totally non-existent. In their very adhisthanam, that alone is called mithya, which is non-existent in its substratum. Like the snake is called mithya, which is totally non-existent in rope. And so, these things are not existent all the time. And therefore, we say that they are not, that it cannot be called permanent. And still it gives the impression of being permanent. So that permanence really is only a kalpana. What we are saying is, only one kutastham paramarthikam nityam vastu is, which is Brahma, and that alone appears as this changing gunas or changing creation. And that is paramarthikam kutastham. Kutastham nityam. Paramarthikam Brahma is absolute. Kutastham nityam, changelessly permanent. Vyomavat sarvavyapi. And it is Vyomavat sarvavyapi, meaning there is no movement in there, like space which is all pervading and therefore free from any movement. And so also there is no movement, no kriya in Brahman. Therefore sarva vikriya rahitam. There is no vikriya, there is no modification, therefore there can be no parinama, there is no transformation from one state to another. Nityatruptam, ever content, complete in itself. Nityatrupto nirashraya, that is Nityatrupta and nirashraya. As a result, no need to do anything. So, that also. Phala anapekshatvacha. Since there is no apeksha for phala, since there is no need, there is no need in Brahman, and therefore there is no question of any kriya. Inasmuch as all the kriyas are generated from one or the other need, and when there is no need, there is no kriya whatever. Niravayavam, that which is avayava or parts, or that which is a composite entity, can undergo a transformation. Brahman is niravayavam, and therefore there is no possibility of any change or transformation. Swayam jyotis svabhavam, and that which is self-effulgent. Even to know Brahman also, no effort is needed. To know an object other than me, some effort is needed in as much as I must operate what we call pramanam, a means of knowledge. And that effort is needed. Having opened the eyes, no effort is needed to know a flower which is in front of me. But at least the eyes must be kept open. In order for me to keep the flower, knowing the flower, then I must keep the eyes open. What should I do in order to know Brahman? No effort is to be made because it is my own self. And therefore, Swayam Jyoti Swabhavam, which is self-effulgent, self-revealing, And therefore, no effort whatever is needed to know that. And therefore, in knowledge of Brahman, there can be no Kriya at all. That Kriya can be also there whenever there is a duality between the subject and the object. Even that duality, Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani, Atmaiva Bhut. The knower, the known, and the knowing, everything has become the self. And therefore, Ekatvam Anupashyataha. Where is the question of Kriya? When the duality is there, sometimes there is a Jnana also is Kriya. Because it is derived from the root Jna, and then the verb always, Kriya, but always involves some Kriya. So even Jnanam also involves Kriya. But this Jnanam does not involve the duality between the seer and the seen. And therefore, even in knowing also, no Kriya whatever is involved. Therefore it is Kutastham Nityam. Yatra Dharma Dharma Karyena Saha. Where Dharma and Adharma, all of them, they completely resolve. They do not have an entrance. Where is Dharma and where is Adharma? Where there is Kartrutva Buddhi. Since there is no Kartrutva Buddhi, the question of Dharma and Adharma is not there. Where is Kalatrayam? Where is the past, present and future? Where is the concept of time? Again, when there is creation, where there is modification. There is no modification here, therefore even the question of time is not there. So karma tatkarya asangitvacha. It is unconnected with karma, karyena saha, along with the karma phala. There is no entrance here. Kala anavachinatvacha, kalatrayam chana upavartate. Now continuing, says Ratnaprabha, Dharmadi anavachede manamaha. How do you say that Dharma and Adharma do not have entrance within Brahman? Which is very important to show, because they want to show that moksha is a product of Dharma. Moksha is a product of some kind of karma or upasana. And here it is necessary to show how Brahman, which is the same as moksha, has no relation whatever with any karma, whether it is dharma or adharma, and therefore has no relationship whatever with karma phala. So it cannot be a karma phala. If Brahman can be of such a nature, such as it can be a karma phala, or it can be connected with a karma phala in some way or the other, then you can somehow imagine Brahman as being generated or moksha being generated. So when to generate moksha is to generate Brahman also, really. Or to generate at least a non-duality between Brahman and Atma. That would be the generation of moksha. That presently Atma and Brahma are separate, and that by doing an upasana or whatever, Aham Brahma, that kind of upasana will bring about that aikya or identity somehow. So that meditation that I am, that will come, that meditation that I am Brahman will generate some kind of an apurva, which will bring about an identity of aikya between Brahma and Atma. So this is what they imagine. Says that cannot be done. That aikya cannot be brought about. It has to be there. If it is there, then alone it can be known. You cannot bring it about. And therefore, to show that dharma and adharma, meaning karma or karma phala, have no relation whatever with Brahman. For that is quoted a statement from Kathopanishad. Manamaha Prana says here, this statement from Nachiketa. Anyatra dharma, anyatra dharma, anyatra smat krita krita, anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha, ityadi shruti-bhyah. Yat tat pashyati, pashyasi tadvada. Whichever you see, please tell me. That's what Nachiketa is asking Yamaraja. It is Nachiketa's question actually. Still it is pramanam, because somehow he must have known that this is from whatever Yamaraja revealed so far, Nachiketa could understand that Atma, which remains even after death, is of this nature. Anyatra dharmat, anyatra adharmat. Anyatra means anyat, says, So anyatra iti padam vibhakti vyatyasena yojayati. Anyatra actually is seventh case. But then it is changed into anyat into first case. So, dharmat anyat. Anyat is separate. So, dharmat anyat, that which is different from dharma. And adharmat anyat, and that which is different from adharma also. So, dharma and adharma, none of them has an entrance or has any relationship whatever with Brahman or Atma. Then krita, karya, very apt statement. Dharma dharmo sahakaryena na upavartete. So sahakarya, along with the products, so karma phala. So anyatra asmat krita krita. So what is kritam? Kritat means karyat. Akritat means karanat. That which is separate from karyam as well as separate from karanam. Anyatra bhutacha bhavyach. Anyatra bhutat bhavyat. Bhuta means past, bhavya means future, chakarat vartamanacha, so kalatrayam. So keeping this statement in mind, of course, Bhashyakara must have written, yatra dharma dharmo sahakaryena kalatrayam cha na upavartete. So this statement very clearly says, bhutacha bhavyacha vartamanacha anyat. That which is separate from the past, separate from the future, separate from the present. Meaning, where this idea of the past, future and present do not exist, even the conceptualization of the past also resolves. The idea is that there is a truth where even this concern about the past or the future or the present is not there. That's the idea. When they say that Atma is beyond the three periods of time, because a awareness of the time always brings about a certain concern. Awareness of the time always brings about a sense of limitation or a sense about concern. A concern is brought about. Think of past, there is always something there. Think of future, always something there. Think of present, there is always something. Because present is always that which is distinguished from the past and future, or past is that which is distinguished from the present and future. So, the moment we distinguish or divide this time, the truth is divided, then it becomes limited. Whenever you think of the past, there is always an awareness that it is not at this time. Even if there is something nice of the past, then also there is a dissatisfaction that it is not there now. How nice it was 10 years ago when we had such and such thing. So that past also immediately brings about a sense of dissatisfaction because it is not in the present. Or a sense of satisfaction, thank God it is not there. But anyway, or future also can bring about always some uncertainties there. In the past usually there are all kinds of difficulties we have gone through and therefore these things are there. In future uncertainties are there. And present also different concerns are always there. At least past, present and future always present myself as a mortal being, definitely. So whenever past, future or present is associated with I, then there is always this sense of mortality because I find myself limited in time. Or whenever I find myself connected with dharma and adharma, well, dharma and adharma are going to create. When I fail to perform dharma or when I wind up doing adharma, is going to create in me a guilt. So ultimately dharma, adharma plants a lot of guilt in the person also. And so I am telling you this concept of dharma, which is a beautiful concept, but definitely it makes the person feel very guilty. When you fail to do a certain thing, when there is a kartavya, when there is a sense of duty, then when we fail to perform that duty, definitely there is a guilt. People have guilt when they leave their homes and come to the ashram to study and whatever. There remains in their mind this guilt that I have left my parents' home. I should have been there serving them. What would they be doing? Or whatever. So whenever we find that we have failed to do something that we should have done, there is guilt. Or when we have done something that we should not have done, again there is a guilt. So this kind of guilt and etc. is going to be there whenever dharma and adharma are involved. In any case, dharma and adharma are possible only when there is a sense of doership. And doership itself is a limitation, understand? That I am a doer. A doer is always an agent of action, is always a limited being because whenever I connect myself with any action, all the limitations involved in the action become my limitations. Whenever I am an agent of action, then, well, I speak, I walk, I talk, I do various things. But I am keenly aware of the limitations involved in everything. Even though we may not specifically or explicitly think of the limitations, they are always implicitly there. That when I lift my arm or when I am walking, there is always an implicit limitation, always is there. I can walk a few miles, that's about all. I can lift this much weight and no more. I can talk in this language and not in other, and whatever it is. So in action, the actor, the doer of action is always a limited being. So whenever I am a doer, I am a limited being, and there is also an awareness about that sense of limitation. So when it is said that Atma is devoid of the sense of doership, it is only to release Atma from the limitation that a doership presents. When it is said that Atma is beyond the 3 periods of time, it is only to release Atma from the limitations that the notion of time always brings about. Then Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Atirikta, that is beyond the Sthula Sukshma and Karana Sharira, because each of these Sharira is limited. So whenever any gunas, qualities, or visheshas, attributes, or anything is denied in Atma, the idea is like each one of them always brings about a sense of limitation, and therefore there is a denial of all limitations. And who wants limitations? Nobody wants to be a qualified person. Everybody wants unqualified things. We don't like qualified things. I am giving you subject to this qualification. We received your document subject to qualification. We don't like that kind of stuff. We received your goods subject to the condition that we shall accept them when it is approved. We don't like that kind of a thing. Do we like it? When anything is qualified, we don't like that qualification, because qualification always limits. When I am qualified also, even though I may feel proud because I am qualified, that I am an engineer or whatever it is, still it's a limitation that I am engineer alone and nothing else. So qualification always limits a thing. However great that qualification is, it's called upadhi. Upadhi always limits a thing. Atma is unqualified in nature, meaning it is free from the limitation. So no limitations have an entry in Brahman, and therefore in moksha. And that is the idea here, that the Shruti says Atma is that which is devoid of every limitation. Anyat yat pashyasi tadvada ityartha. And whatever it is, vartamanat chanyat yat pashyasi tadvada. Bhutad, bhavyad, chakarat, vartamanat cha anyat. That anyat should go with vartamanat, So yat pashyasi tadvada. That which you know, I know that you know that. From what you are telling me so far, I know that you know that which is beyond dharma and the period of time, and therefore please tell me. This is what Nachiketa asks of Yamaraja. Says Purnanandya, Brahmatirikto moksha iti abhiprayana shankate. That moksha is something different from Brahma. With this kind of a thing. Brahma is there, alright. Atma is there, okay. Brahma is limitless, alright. But what is moksha? Moksha is some kind of a state. Moksha is some kind of an event or a place or a state which is different from Brahma. Imagine Vaikuntha. So Vaikuntha, the being in Vaikuntha, let us say, is moksha. Then Brahman is what? Lord Vishnu is Brahman. And being there is different from that. So moksha, meaning being in a certain state of happiness, is different from Brahman, which is God or which is Lord. So this is the usual imagination. Whenever we think that we are going to become free by going to some place or by being in a certain state, then they always imagine different kinds of muktis. They talk of salokyam, samipyam, sarupyam, sayujyam, being in the same loka as Lord, being close to the Lord, being like Lord, being one with the Lord, being the part of the Lord. So this is how, but not the Lord. So what is moksha? Being near God. What is moksha? Being like God. What is moksha? Being part of God, but not God. So if you imagine moksha as something like that, then moksha is imagined to be something different from Brahman, which is God. So they say that, what are you talking? See, because when we are talking to them, they already have a certain concept of moksha. With reference to that they understand. So they cannot understand some of these things. What are you talking about? What is moksha? Moksha is being with God. That's not God. So that is Brahmatirikto moksha. That moksha is a situation, is a state, is a condition. And that is not God. That condition is different from God. So Brahmatirikto moksha iti abhiprayana shankate. With this kind of an abhipraya, or with this kind of a idea in his mind, shankate. Nanu iti. Says Ratna Prabha. Nanu uktaha shrutayah ब्रह्मणः कूटस्थ असंगित्वं वदन्तु मोक्षस्य नियोगफलत्वं किं न स्यात् ननु all right uktaha shrutayah all the shrutis that you have quoted all this anyatra dharmat and then other shrutis that you have quoted brahmanah kutastha asangitvam vadantu they said Brahma is kutastham and Brahma is asangi. Brahma is changeless. Brahma is permanent. Brahman is unconnected. I understand. That we understand. All of those Shruti statements, in fact, only reveal the nature of Brahma. But we are here discussing moksha. Mokshasya niyoga phalatvam kim na syat. But then being with Brahman, or being close to Brahman, or becoming like Brahman, that is what we call moksha, and that is something that has to be accomplished. God is there, Brahma is there, and kutastha asanga paramarthikam kutastham nityam it is. However, moksha, which is a particular condition, which is some kind of a connection or relation or association with God, that has to be created. You are right now separate from God because God is in Goloka, Vaikuntha.